Gentlemen, it's 2 p.m. Eastern Time from the studio here in Pennsylvania, United States of America. And it's 7 p.m. GMT in Accra and also 8 p.m. GMT in Abuja, Nigeria. Hello, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Thank you for tuning in to Mozart Woods Media. We are streaming live across the globe on all our social media platforms at Mozart Woods. It's Easter, and this provides a fine opportunity for families to gather and enjoy. Indeed, that's how a lot of families are doing it across the globe as we speak. But as we are marking the resurrection of Christ Jesus, somewhere, somehow, there is a girl, a wife, a husband, somewhere who is being abused. So, on our political affairs show tonight, we are discussing the growing gender based violence across the world. But tonight, we are focusing on Africa as we speak, as I ask, just how widespread is this challenge in Africa? Let me give you a little perspective. In 2019, Amnesty International reported that homes became dangerous place for women and young girls during the COVID-19 lockdown across Southern Africa. This is because within the first week of the lockdown in South Africa, police service reported receiving 2,300 calls for help related to gender-based violence. Also, by June 2020, about 21 women and girls has been killed by intimate partners in the country. Apart from that, in nearby Mozambique, in a Maputo Central Hospital, employee was raped and murdered on the 31st May 2020. Whilst in Zimbabwe, it has been documented that 764 cases of gender based violence occurred in the first 11 days of the national lockdown. Just this past week, a popular musician, a singer called Osina Chi, the name is very difficult, I can't even pronounce it, died allegedly due to domestic violence. This list goes on and on and on. So, in our political affairs program tonight, we are asking, what should we do as a people to end this gender based violence in Africa? Joining us tonight is Dr. Angelina Jamina Abwaji. She's the executive director, the ACT Foundation. And then we also have Ama Odami Amwakun. She is a sexual and a gender based violent advocate in Ghana. And then we have another wonderful sister. She's called Angelina Akbabi, who has gone through such kind of abuse. And she's been traveling all over the world and then making herself known through church meetings and then public, blah, 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 etc. Okay, let me throw the first question to Sister Angelina Akbabi. Sister, briefly tell us your experience with domestic violence. Yeah, we are waiting. Sister Angel, can you hear me loud and clear? Hello? Can you hear me? All right. We will move on and then talk to Doctor. Doctor,
Yes,
can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you.
I have read your profile earlier. I know you were at Akrofi Crystalline Institute of Theology, and then you read a master's in mission and culture in 2006. Um, tell us, what is the root cause of all these things, violent, etc., that's going on in our homes?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Today is Resurrection Sunday for Christians, and
yeah,
we know that Africa is a very religious continent. There are Christians who are in the majority,
mm,
Muslims, there are people of other faiths. But the question is whether people actually recognize that there's a lot of evil and wickedness in the world. Okay, so gender-based violence and domestic violence are part of the problem of evil in the world. And what our state institutions try to do is to either prevent it or correct it or address it when it happens. Okay, so this is the world trying to make things right. But
All
we
right.
should understand that these things would be with us probably as long as the world lasts, because as long as people choose to act upon their base instincts, we will get this going. Now, what is the root cause therefore? um I'm speaking as a lawyer, and I'm speaking as an advocate, and
Yeah.
also a pastor. So I come from quite a number of places. I
Right.
can understand that the root cause is plainly man's inhumanity to man. Okay, so
Right.
you find, for example, in the Bible, the first recorded case of domestic violence was when Cain killed his brother Abel because he was annoyed. That was the
All right.
first recorded domestic violence case. Okay, this is a brother against a brother, and it continued after that. So you have a situation where one person feels that they have power over another person. And this
Right.
happens a lot, particularly in our homes and our cultural settings, when power is, sort of ganged up in one person as against another. Now, if that person is not restrained by their upbringing, by maybe their religious propensities, or by their conscience, they are
Mm-hmm.
likely to use the power wrongly. That happens a lot in domestic violence. Okay, so I believe that I married you, I have power over you, and if you do things that I believe I do not like, whether
Right.
you think it's okay or not, I can exercise a certain kind of power and control over you and put you in your place. If I have to smack you, I can do that. If I have to whip you, if I have to rape you, whatever shows that I have power over you, and I'm putting you in your place for what I believe is not to my liking. That's simply domestic violence. So the root cause is power and control. Unfortunately, it appears that power is stuck a lot when it comes to the males, among us, culturally,
Right.
politically, and in all sectors. Okay, so there's a lot of impunity about the use of this power, and that's why now people are going about advocating. Institutions are being asked to, step up and make sure that they intervene in homes,
Right.
especially, and all of these situations.
I'll ask a follow-up question, but before let me see whether if Sister Angelina Akbabi, Sister Angelina Akbabi, can you hear me loud and clear? Can you hear me? It looks like she's muted her. Okay. The follow-up question is: before we arrive at trying to do something about it, you think parenting has been a problem? I was discussing this with my wife as from church today, and she asked me a question, and I was just saying that what about we adding this particular subjects to our curriculum, to our lads, our wards, as we started bringing them up from the primary stage? Because being with somebody is like a job. It's also a job. If I am training my ward or the student to become scientists or to become astronomist or to become a biochemist, I think being with somebody or getting married or being with somebody in the same house is also another form of a job if we have to just let them go through that training so that way when they get to their matured age, it's not that we are now coming to help them or try to teach them, etc., etc. What do you have to say about that before I move to the next question?
Right. Well, it helps.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, people sometimes act out of ignorance.
Mm.
Sometimes they don't act out of ignorance.
Yeah.
Sometimes they know that this is wrong. However, they'll still continue to do it for as long as nobody challenges them. Okay,
Yeah.
nobody tells them to the face, or nobody tries to handle the situation in an appropriate way. So yes, training, education, sensitization, they help. Putting it in our curriculum. I know some countries have done it, they help.
Yeah.
I can tell you for a fact that it helps a lot. At least when people begin to understand the root cause of this kind of thing, and they don't attribute it to poverty, jealousy, anger, lack of training, and all of that. Okay, then you get people and that kind of understanding actually also helps in the choices that they make. Okay,
Okay.
so that they can choose to act in a certain way because they understand that this is the root cause, and it's not because I'm poor, it's not because I am just angry, it's not because I am frustrated, it's not because I don't have money. That's why I'm
Amen.
hitting my spouse. Okay, it is because I'm choosing to act in a certain way. I may have learned it by watching the way my parents resolve their issues. That may
Okay.
be a cause, but even so, I still have the choice. Okay, as long as I'm lucid. And that's why the question of mental health, people often say, are these people okay in their minds? Most abusers are very okay. They don't behave the same way when they are with other people or in
Mm-hmm.
other situations.
Yeah.
They choose their targets very carefully. They
Mm.
are usually people with them, they can isolate them and cut them off social support and everything and abuse them. They won't do that in the workplace. So off they are very lucid,
Mm.
very okay. Most of them, okay. The ones that may have mental health issues would
Right.
do it to other people. They would flip here, flip there, do this here, do this there. It's not just at somebody that they believe is under their thumb.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I thank you so much. I would like to put a question across, but let me just go to our next panelist. Sister Angelina Akpabi, can you hear me loud and clear? Can you hear me? Okay. Let's go to Sister. You can hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay. Let's go to Sister Amma.
Yeah.
You can hear me. You've been a victim. All right. You've been a victim. I can hear you. You know, we have to go through this most of the time because the telecast is globally. I mean, from one continent to the other, and thank God for it. Can you hear me loud and clear? All right. Let's go to Sister Amma Odami. Sister Amma, are you still there? Can you hear me loud and clear? Well, okay.
Yes. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can hear you. I would like to throw you a question. What are some of the causes of these problems? I mean, a doctor has outlined a lot of problems. I want to hear from your side of the story. What are some of these problems? Some say it's cultural. It's a cultural thing. And tell me, is it accurate? I think she's off. Doctor, I remembered, doctor, I grew up in the barracks.
Right.
I grew up in the barracks and in the
Okay.
military. You know, those days, I don't know whether it still happen. If you spank your wife and your wife reports this to your commanding officer, you go to guard room for 90 days.
Mm,
90 days. And
mm,
if it continues again, you lose your rank.
mm.
So, so these are the punishment for a thing like that. So before you even think, doctor, let me ask you a question. Why is it difficult for persons in this kind of relation to seek early help? Why is it so? Is it
Well,
because of our culture, our upbringing, etc.,
mm,
etc.? Yeah.
it's all part of it actually. Women especially grow up believing they are in a subordinate position already. Okay, so they take that baggage also into marriage without understanding that you're going into a partnership of equals. Even if you are somebody who believes that the husband is the head of the family, the headship of the family does not mean a boss who subordinates others. Okay,
Okay.
it means something very different. Okay, but that's how people come into marriage with a certain frame, a cultural frame. Okay, that's is not often challenged. And so, if they are hurt or harmed, and they want to seek help outside, that which is already in their mind begins to restrain them already. In Ghana, we would say, if you send the to Magonia no
Hmm.
abonte, so it's like you can't wash your dirty linen in public. When your people are marrying, they say these things to them, okay? Solve your problems and make sure you don't let anybody know. And often it's the woman who imbibes or has to imbibe a lot of these things. Okay. Sometimes it's about the children.
Yeah.
Where will we go? Okay, who will take care of my children? If I leave, what's going to happen to them? Okay. Sometimes it's this great hope that the person will change. Okay,
Right.
believing that if you pray long and hard enough, the person will change, without understanding that sometimes prayer comes to change you and your perception so that you can take the appropriate actions. Okay, sometimes it's about who will believe me.
Right.
We live in a society that for a long time, when people reported these abuses, be they men or women, they're not believed. Men are laughed at when they report abuse. Women
Mhm.
are, ignored by institutions when they report abuse. Okay, they'll tell you this is a family matter. Go find the head of the family to resolve it and all of that.
Right.
Okay, and then people are giving scriptures, people are giving cultural adages when
Mm.
these things happen. So it's a lot of problem. It's a lot of, and we internalize it. You see, that's where the problem is. Once it is internalized, then that internal clock begins to work, and the victims usually won't step out to report. And even if somebody tries to intervene, they still try to maintain, especially if it's a marriage, the status quo.
Okay, let's see whether if we can get Angelina Akbabi. She is a victim of this situation, and I'm so emotional when it comes to that aspect because we all have mothers. Let me speak to Angelina Akbabi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's so difficult. I know she's out there, she's in the street. I mean, she wants to let her voice be heard to the whole world, but it's so difficult. Network is not permitting. Okay, let's try. Sister Ama Odamin Amwako, how are you? Can you hear me? All right. It looks like, doctor, you have won the business. I got another question for
That's
you, doctor.
true.
It looks like you have won it. Let's see.
Oh,
I think she's coming. Sister Angelina, can you hear me? What is happening is that she's getting herself back into the system. So instead of her getting into the system once, she's doing it twice. So the other one is just overriding the other one. Okay. How long? How long, doctor?
yes.
I know we have this perception that women are uh, more victims than men. But what is the statistics saying now? What is the
Oh,
statistics?
it's not a perception. Worldwide
Yeah,
statistics
yeah,
from Azerbaijan to Zimbabwe,
yeah.
worldwide statistics. In many countries, 1 out of 3 adult women who have been in a relationship have suffered physical abuse from the hands of an intimate partner. 1 out of 3. In the Nordic countries that have better social systems, it's
Mhm.
usually 1 out of 5 women. If you come to the US, the UK, it's usually 1 out of 4. In the third world countries, it's usually 1 out of 3 women who have
Right.
been in a relationship have suffered physical abuse from the hands of an intimate partner. Just about a year, 2 years ago, no, 2 years ago, coming to a year,
Yeah.
women were killed in Ghana, one after the other.
Mhm.
I think I stopped counting at 9, just in the space of about 10 months. I
Yeah.
think I stopped counting at 9, by their intimate partners. When I was an attorney with the government
Right.
years ago, many of the cases involving women, homicides, were cases of their partners killing them, whether by machete or by gun or by strangling. Yes. Okay, so this is not a perception, it
Right.
is a reality. And there's a reason for the reality. It is always about that subordinate position that people usually place women in, especially within the domestic sphere. Okay,
Right.
so you understand why that is not a perception, is the truth. But it doesn't mean that there aren't men who are abused. In the work that I do, yes, I've met men who have been abused. And when they dare to report to the institutions, we treat them like, oh, how can a man report being abused? They
Right.
are supposed to act like a man, all that kind of thing. Yes, it happens to men also, but not in the same proportions
When
as
it comes to men that are abused, I know it's not physical.
no.
I know it's not
Oh, it can be
physical.
physical too.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the other aspect.
Mm.
If it's not physical, then it's mental. can you give me 2 or 3 examples of men that are abused mentally? That can you give me 2 or 3
So,
examples or something? Yes.
verbal
Maybe
abuse,
free so cry
psychological.
energy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I can
Is
hear you.
the other panelist speaking?
Yes, I'll get her back onto the system. I want to listen to that. Yeah. Your
Okay.
submission, yes.
Yes. Verbal abuse, psychological, emotional abuse. These are often taken together. Yes, men suffer physical abuse. They also suffer verbal abuse. For example, if you tell a man, maybe your husband, your intimate partner, that
Right.
what kind of a man are you? Do you think you are man enough? Okay, you are so useless that nobody can do anything. Do you think people, somebody can verbally abuse you and reduce you to nothing? And sometimes it happens with men in relationships also. Okay, but I've also seen men who have been physically abused, and that also happens.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see whether if we can get our sister on the line. Hello, Sister Angel Akbabi. Can you hear me? Sister Angel, can you hear me? Okay. She says she can hear me, but we cannot hear you. So you have to do something about your system so that we can hear you. You should work on your mute. It looks like you have muted the system, or maybe the earpiece, the connection is not proper. So just take off the earpiece and then see whether if you can talk straight into the cell phone, and then we can hear you. Take off the plug and talk straight into the ear. Can you hear me? All right, doctor, you have still won the business, so I'm going to get you back on that. All right, doctor, you're talking about help. Mm, you guys need help to be able to facilitate this thing. You need finances, you need structures, you need personnel, etc. Have you been receiving help from the government or any institution? Because a thing like that is more of psychological, you know.
You mean abuse is psychological?
No, I mean incentives to further your works.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the past, we used to have support from international organizations,
Right.
bilaterals, and so on. But especially in our countries where we became middle income, um, lots of donors would rather go to other countries they consider poorer. The grants and so on were not flowing as much as they should. So, for us, as an example, with where I work, we decided from year 2017 or a little earlier that we were going to go just appeal to people, let them understand that this is a situation that we're facing in our country. There are young girls who are being abused, there are incest victims, there are domestic violence victims, and so on. And you need to provide them with holistic services. So people should just support us out of their pockets. Okay, so now we have individuals mainly who support us, and then a few corporate organizations also come in, and we still appealing to more to come in because every step of the way requires money. Somebody comes to you, they have been harmed. You need to take them to the police. Transportation, when you get to the police, they have to go for a medical report and treatment. That requires money. It's not taken up by the National Health Insurance. Okay, and sometimes they can't even pay for the doctor's report. And when that doesn't happen, it means the case is stalled because you have to give the doctor's report to the police to file the case. Okay, when they finish, maybe do they need shelter? Are they in danger? At the shelter, food, water, electricity, bathroom sandals, baby diapers, everything has to be paid for. Okay,
Right.
if it is a crisis center where you need to support the person economically, you need to find some grants for the person to start a business. Why? Because probably the abuse is also happening because they have nothing or they have very little to make choices. So it's every step of the way
Right.
needs support, needs resources, and that's why we ask for people to support us. In our parts of the world, the government usually doesn't support this kind of work. If you ask me why, I can't tell you.
Right.
Okay. because the ministry that takes care of gender, children, and social protection is itself resource poor. There's very little budget for the ministry. So, yeah, there's little to trickle down to organizations that do this work. And they are very few and far. We are very few and far between.
So, what can we do to push the government to set up good policies so that because they are also part of they are also citizens, and so therefore
Absolutely,
it's
yes.
up to government to play its role. What can we do? How can we push government to do its bit of this business?
Well, some of what you're doing right now, when the media picks up these issues and keeps it on the front burner, you see, most of the time we sensationalize the issues. We don't actually, when the incident happens and we sensationalize it, then in the next 5 days, it drops off. Okay, and people forget that there are many other people who are suffering this kind of abuse, and every one of them needs help. If the help doesn't reach them, they are either maimed psychologically or physically, or they can even die. And so it's about going on with the advocacy that look, governments must do well to put some money into the work of some of these organizations and even its own state institutions, such as specialized police units for women, and not only women but even victims. Okay, the Department of Social Welfare, that's always needing resources. Even its own state institutions
Right.
need resources to be able to do their work. When they are not able to do their work, it affects our work because no one case comes with a single issue. You need the doctors, you need the police, you need the courts, you need the psychologists, you need even pastoral care. You need so
Right.
many things going on at the same time.
Thank you, Doctor. Let's see if I can get Sister Angel on the line. Sister Angel, Angel Akpabli, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. It looks like I would love to showcase you to the whole world, but it looks like the system is not in your favor. You can hear me, but I can hear you. It looks like there's something wrong with your system. Okay, I'm going to give you off your cell phone, on it again, and then log into the system. Maybe that will help. I know she can hear me, but when she speaks, I can't hear. So just off your phone, on it again, and log in. I'll get you back into the system. Let me go back to Doctor. Doctor,
Yes, sir.
you are a woman of God,
Mhm.
and then you've done theology. So the whole morning I've been reading your bio. So
Oh,
please, uh, just tell me, what role should religious bodies play in supplying efforts to our brothers and sisters who are going through this?
good question.
Yeah,
Most people, especially in Africa, belong to I established that people go to church regularly. People, so you see, one of the best things that is for the church itself to have a self understanding about this issue, how it relates to scripture. Okay, so I'm restricting myself to what I know best. I know the Muslims and other faiths too may have their own, things to talk about. For the church to first have a self understanding and understand, how do we preach about this? How do we maintain, build good family systems and reduce violence even among our families? Because
right,
a lot of the cases that come from supposedly religious or Christian homes and so on, if one of them is not religious, both of them are. Okay, so for example, the Osinachi case, for example, you even heard that the alleged suspect is a pastor.
mm,
Okay, exactly. So it's about bringing our minds to the fact that the church itself is like a family, and within the family of the church are families, and we need to shepherd our families. How do we shepherd them? By giving them the word of God and letting them live it out practically between husband and wife and the rest, the parents and the children, and so on. And therefore, we must also have the kind of systems that enable us to know when something is going wrong. Now, if we keep preaching the headship of the man without bringing the understanding of it, a lot of religious men think they have the temerity and the audacity impunity to do things to their spouses, and that is biblically wrong.
Right.
Okay, and so the kind of preaching that comes is important, the kind of systems that we set in place so that people can feel safe talking to a counselor or somebody who is deemed wise within our setup. People can feel safe about it is very, very, very important. Okay, and also the fact that churches must support programs, okay, that work on some of these issues. They may even be set up by their own people. Okay, so they should support them. You can't do everything, but you have people among you who are doing things. Support them to be able to help families and spouses and people in relationships and so on. It is
Right.
possible.
Well, there's somebody who just, a lady in the United States that sent a text message, and I would like to read this text. I think I'll have to call in on Sister Angel or Sister Angel, and then Sister or Dami on their cell phone. But before that, Doctor, I want you to just let's listen to this text message coming from somewhere in the United States. Sometimes the women think that because their husbands have paid their bride price, they have been subjected into being submissive to. Oh my God, I just lost the test. Okay. Submissive to their husband, even if they are abused, they become afraid of the ridicule. They will. I don't know. The text message keeps on running. And then, okay, in a long shot, it's saying that because, and I know you've thrown light on that, but let's talk about it again. Because the man had paid the bride price, he thinks that he owns the woman like a property, and so therefore you must be submissive. And today's woman is enlightened. Because of the internet, because of church, because of going to the market, because meeting other people, seeing people with their relationships. So therefore, they come out and say, listen, you can't treat me like that. Can you throw more light on
Well, you see, there's an interesting twist to this.
that?
You would find that there are many supposedly educated,
Yeah. Mhm.
enlightened women who have access to
Manjas
finances, who have
Marebo.
access to internet, and all of these things, who are still abused and are afraid to step out, talk about it, or break their silence. In fact, my experience in 20 how many years of work in this area, I find that it's more difficult for women within the elite class
Right.
to actually speak about this, to take the steps that they need to do. I find that women who may not have so much education or even so much financial power
Mhm.
somehow are able to, you know, uh, wreck up some resistance or take more action, better action than women like me and many other people, who are educated and so on and so forth. It means that is this buy into the social status of the relationship and all of that, and what it means when people see us, they will stigmatize us and so on and so forth. It's a very strong thing. And so this question of submission may
Right.
go either way. It doesn't matter whether you are enlightened or not. The thing is, do you understand what submission is? Do you
Okay.
understand what headship is? Do you understand that it doesn't make you a doormat? Do you
Right.
understand that your headship does not mean that you are the Lord of all you survey, master of your own domain, and you
Mhm.
can do exactly what you please without anybody's intervention? If that understanding comes, it doesn't matter whether the person is enlightened, has access, and whatever, whatever. If that understanding is there, the relationship dynamics change.
All right. Doctor, let's see if I can call our victim. Sorry. One of our guests who I want her to speak because she has gone through it physically, and she's
Mhm.
also helping, she's advocating, talking to people all over the world about it. And it's difficult to get her through the system. Let me see if I can call her, and then she will come into the program. Well, whilst we're waiting for the call, there's another question coming from Sister Doris Ofori. She's also in the United States. Our African culture has instilled fear in marriage. Our African culture has instilled fear in marriage. Women so much that they are told that when their husbands cheat on them or abuse them, It's because they never lived up to the standard of a wife. Hence, they try to hide their pain until it becomes too much. Women should be valued in their marriages. I think she cited a complaint and also gave a remedy to it. Doctor, you would like to throw a little light whilst I work on the phone lines on the victims?
Okay, well, to some extent, I agree with the person who wrote that message. To
Yeah,
some extent,
Doris. Yeah,
that in Africa, yes, it's because of the kinds of adages, proverbs, wise sayings that we have about relationships, and sometimes, the family is a very strong intervention force in either stopping good intervention in an abusive situation or actually reinforcing it. So you may get a report going to the family, and the family saying, this is all part of marriage. If the person takes good care of you or takes care of the children, you should endure it. These things do happen in our African families. However, within
yeah.
Africa, who support can give such great support to people who are being abused and
Yeah.
become a blocker to the
All right.
abuser. Okay. And also, it's not just an African
Hello,
abuse
and
and
doctor,
domestic
can you
violence
just
is
give me a minute,
worldwide.
doctor?
So,
Hello, can I speak to Angela? Angela, she's supposed to be on this show. She's having problem connecting in, so I have to call her cell phone personally. Can you put Angela on the line, please? Can you hear me? Hello. I think Angela has never been happy, has never been lucky on this program. Doctor, please proceed. All
yes,
right.
so I was saying that also we should realize this is really not an African thing.
Right.
Across the world, whether the Asian continent, the North American continent, the South American continent, African continent, it is a worldwide thing. So
Right.
every continent has its culture, and a lot of the cultures subordinate women, especially when they are spouses. And when
Right.
that happens, domestic violence is often closely behind it. Okay, so yes, we do have our own texts used to justify violence or stop people from taking a step to report and correct it and all of that. But it's really not restricted to Africa. There are many, 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 many different kinds of violence. For example, if you go to India, there's this dowry related violence. It's very strong there. In the as Islamic countries, we have lots of kinds of violence against women. In North America, I said, you still have a situation where 1 out of 4 women, okay, are suffering abuse
Right.
in North America, despite all their supposed sophistication and all the number of institutions they have. You have a lot of women being murdered by their husbands. So it's not just an African thing.
Right. Doctor, let me try again on our victim, but it looks like it's getting difficult. Extra, extra. Okay. So, doctor, the program is almost coming to an end, and I would like to ask you to. So, what should we do? I mean, this is it's happening every day. It's going on even as I speak right now. It's happening somewhere in the world, somewhere. And then I know I'll be bringing you back on this program so that we can go deep into it and see how best we can also help. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So it's a multi-dimensional problem, and it's only a multi-dimensional approach that helps to prevent it or to stop it. So there's something called the four P's approach. Okay. Let me just use it because it makes it simpler to understand. The
right,
first P is prevention. Countries must use all the systems of information and their human rights systems and all of that to actually do a lot of awareness raising, a
mm,
lot of sensitization to show why this is criminal, to show the sanctions for it, to show how to build up stronger communities, stronger families. This is something that you do by prevention. You suggested even putting it in curriculum, okay, teaching our children, resocialization. All of those things are important. Prevention is always better than cure, okay? But yes, we live in a bad world, okay? Many times it's good, but sometimes it's also bad. And domestic violence is part of the bad side of this world, okay? And in that sense, the second P is protection.
Protection.
When it happens, how are we able to use our policies, our laws, and our systems to protect the ones who are being abused, who are being victimized? Okay, so it is important for our countries, especially our governments or our ministries or whatever, to look at what protective systems we have within our communities. It may be something as simple as the chief's palace, the queen mother's, household. It may be simple as gathering together, community organizations, the local police, the local chief, the local teacher, the local to form a certain kind of network that is able to give protection to people who are being abused and are running and need somebody to talk to. It can be as simple as that.
Right.
Then there's the provision part. When somebody has faced violence, the
Right.
person needs to be provided for. The person needs medical help. The
Mhm.
person may need psychological help. The person may need financial help. The person may need the courts, the police, this provision.
Right.
What are the resources within our communities? And are they up to scratch? Do they have the capacity to help? Create the safe spaces that can help people to report safely and get help. Hotlines. These are
Thank
all
you.
provision. Then there is the part where I call perpetrator accountability.
Right.
Okay, some people will say the state putting its prosecutorial powers on play. If people understand that this issue is not just a family issue, it
Mm.
is criminal.
Right.
For the abused person to understand that this is not just a relationship matter, it is a crime.
Right.
For the people who are doing the abuse to understand that this is not a matter of their homes, their governance of their homes, it is criminal.
Mm.
Okay, and therefore the state also makes people understand this and actually goes after them and makes an example of people who do
Right.
these kinds of abuses. It becomes some form of a deterrence,
Right.
okay, for people who have a pension to do this. And
Yeah.
also they are held accountable. That
Right.
is the thing that is missing the most. A lot of abusers do this over and over again because nobody holds them accountable. If
Right.
you hear the Osinachi story, for example, from her family and so on, you start asking, yes, it appears that everybody tried to appeal to her to do something, but she
Mhm.
believed that the man would change and all of that. I'm just using that. It's a very sad story. I don't want anybody to feel sadder about it. I'm using it as a
Right.
case study
Yeah.
from what I've heard. Okay. But then how could this man have lived in the community, gone in and out several times when
Yeah.
people knew they were doing this and nobody could hold him to account? Nobody could hold him to account. Not an institution, not a group of people, not
Right.
a community, not the neighborhood, and
Mm.
so on and so forth. It's just amazing. That's how people get away with doing abuse because they feel that nobody can do, they can actually dare the abused person. You can take me anywhere, nothing will happen to me. What kind of a community have we become?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so these four P's are very, very, very important. And anytime one of them is missing, it means that we are not working right.
Right.
Something is lost and we are not doing it right.
The peace. I will call them the peace. Prevention, protection, and provision. Right.
Yes, then
Um,
perpetrator accountability or prosecution.
accountability. Doctor, I am so touched and I'm so blessed that I know you have to move to the church session immediately. And you have done 100% justice to today's time. I will be getting in contact with you again, and then we'll have to run this show again because we need to help. wherever we are in this world, whether we're in Alaska, we are in Pennsylvania, we are in Britain or Australia, we have to pull all the resources together and then also help, not only in Africa, but in other part of the world. And I know when that time comes and I call you and say, Mama, you got to be an ambassador on this journey. I know you're going to gladly embrace it and then do it more than you are doing right now. Ladies, that is
Thank
all
you.
that I will allow. Time will allow us for tonight on this show. Thank you so much for coming. We hope to have you back on the show again. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow us on the social media page, Mozart Woods Media on Facebook and also on YouTube and on Instagram. Remember to turn on the notification for our live feed. We will come your way again next week, God willing, sometime with another exciting program. Until then, shalom, peace, live to you. My name is Martin Petigo, and I'm telecasting live from Pennsylvania. Mom, God bless you, and I'll be calling you behind the curtains.
Thank you.
Alhaji Alima Sagitu, I got you. I got you. Ghanaian's new room, GH, yes, dog, I got you. Sister Ofori, Doris Ofori from the US, I got you on that. And then our own cousin, Plantation Boss, I got you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. Next week, Plantation. Bye.